Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of How to Sell Your Vision. As always, I'm Moti, Elkaim, the host of this podcast series. And our goal with this podcast is to bring successful founders who have raised funds in today's market and VC partners who knows what it takes to convince them to invest in your company. And today, I'm very honored to have Mark Fershteyn with us, who is the CEO and founder of Recap. Recap is an amazing company that achieved something quite remarkable. Even in their seed round, they were able to tailor companies like Zoom to invest in them. And Mark is going to tell us all about how they help GTM teams standardize their workflow from discovery to delivery. Mark, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to share what little wisdom I have, but it should be a good conversation.
Cool. So before we dive in, we have a lot of tech founders, companies listening to this podcast. Tell us a bit about Recap and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think like most founders, this came out of personal frustration. Before Recap, I spent pretty much a decade in B2B SaaS sales, both as a sales rep myself, working my way up from an SDR to sales management and then VP of sales in my last role. And during the time, what I kind of realized is that, we spend all this time and money on tools, but all of those tools are at the top of the funnel. Right? It's getting us leads, it's finding contact numbers, it's making cold calls, it's booking a meeting. But if we really think about it, booking a meeting is the first 5% of the buyer journey. Right? That's
Right.
that's when the work actually begins. And we were working complex deals at the time, and things were just scattered everywhere. I mean, you have Excel spreadsheets, you have PowerPoint slides, you have emails, you have text messages, you have CRM fields that my reps aren't filling out. Like it's this chaotic nightmare. And I realized that, it made it really hard for me, my sellers, and my buyers to literally be on the same page. Right. And if we think about sales, like so much of sales is really just us project managing. Right, having to herd everybody together, make sure we're working backwards from a timeline. But as salespeople, or at least me, I wasn't really good at this. Right, I was really good at kind of like the art of selling, but the science of selling, which I think is like 80-90% of it, it's really hard to do. And so we kind of thought about it from like first principles, and we did this about 5 years ago. And we ended up creating a collaboration platform between sales teams, all of their internal revenue teams, right, like customer success, et cetera, and the client. And we do that all the way from your first call, all the way through essentially implementation, renewals, QBRs. It's a single place that brings in all of these things, eliminates spreadsheets, eliminates Google Slides. Everything just literally lives in one destination.
You know what? I can totally relate to it because I remember being a CMO. They assigned the business development team to the marketing department. It was all over the place. It was just a nightmare as you describe it. I had a team of about 10 BDRs all over the place.
Yeah.
And regardless of how hard you work and how you try to get everything organized, nature just finds its way to get it chaotic unless you have a unified flow and a unified system. So very happy that you shared all those details about Recap.
Yeah, of course.
So let's talk about fundraising. You've raised a significant amount for a seed round, 7.9 million. Some big players are backing your company, including Zoom. Let's say you're seeing a founder. He or she are about to start their fundraising journey. They're in your stages of fundraising. What would be the number one tip? If you could just tell them one thing, what would that thing be?
It's really hard to distill it down to one, and that's probably why you're asking. But I think one of the biggest lessons, I'll give you some quick context real quick. So we started out actually bootstrapped. We weren't going to fundraise because my co-founder and I were first generation immigrants here in America. We don't have the network. We didn't go to Stanford. We didn't think we were going to be successful because we didn't fit the mold. And so we ended up bootstrapping. We raised 500 grand initially, actually from one of our customers who loved the platform so much. That then led us to actually being open to fundraising, which then led us to raising a 5.5 seed on top of that, or 5.8. And then we ended up raising another 1.5 seed extension from Zoom because they were also so impressed and we're working on integration with them. And I think during that time, the piece that really I think I struggled with when we did try and go out for fundraising before we realized, before we kind of came to terms that we were going to bootstrap, is that I was too much thinking about it from my perspective of, oh my God, this is life changing and we're building this cool thing. And I realized that investors don't give a shit, right? Like they are looking at this as a business opportunity to make as much money as possible. And they're thinking about this in terms of bets, right? So it has nothing to do with what you're doing and, the product that you're doing. Is this the best possible high risk investment that I can make, or hopefully low risk investment that I can make to transfer X amount of dollars into Y amount of revenue, right? And it's not you versus the competition. It's you versus everything else that they're looking at. And so for me, when I took a step back and realized, I was like, oh, wow, the black box of what our company is doesn't matter as much. What matters as much is, can we tell a convincing story of how this is going to be the biggest bet that they can do in their portfolio? Because if it's not, they're going to take that bet.
So you're looking at it it's interesting the way you're phrasing it, because I've worked with so many founders and they're coming in and they're in love with their product, right? They're in love with their solution. And they think that if they're going to focus on the technology, the product, the solution, the VCs are going to fall in love with it as well. But if I hear you correctly, you're saying, look, the product is just the product. You need to communicate the opportunity in a very real way and tell your story in a very real way, so they're going to put their bets on you.
Absolutely. And I think also too, it's if you're raising a seed round, the sophisticated investors, they know that your idea may change 3 months from now, right? The whole point of this is to validate the seed phase, in my opinion, is to validate, is this idea even worth going to market with, right? Then you get your Series A, and then you prove out, can you actually go to market repeatedly on this, right? And so you scale. And so they know that they're really investing on essentially the person and the team at that point. And so the business and the idea don't really matter, in my opinion, right? And so to your point, I think it's really important that people need to really make sure that when they're going through the slides, is it a story or is it a collection of just really pretty slides that go one after the other? And there's a big difference in that. And it took me hundreds of conversations to kind of learn that lesson.
Oh, I'm a firm believer in that. I'm a firm believer in that because I've seen both, and I know that the collection of slides is definitely not working. I want to tap in on what you said, because it's really, I think, fundamental, critical, but also super insightful in the way you brought it up. Communicating the opportunity. And in many ways, founders believe that, okay, I'll show the TAM, the SAM, the SOM, whatever it is, I'll show big numbers and this is the opportunity. But everyone is coming in with an opportunity, right? Everyone presents an opportunity. How did you present your opportunity in a way that, to your opinion, captivated your investors?
Yeah. So the way that we kind of phrased it, I thankfully my sales background helped me here, right? Like if you think about what sales is, I do believe that it should be a collection of small yeses throughout the journey, right? You're getting small yes, 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 and you get to the end. The most common momentum at that point is getting another yes, right? And so that's how we ended up thinking and restructuring our story. So it's like, is there any break in the story in the opportunity that we tell where either there's hesitation or there's a no? Right. And so we kind of dumbed it down actually even and said like, okay, here's this massive problem. Yes, I agree with this. This could be better. Yes. This is better in different opportunities in different industries. Yes. So why would it not be the same in this industry, for example, for sales, right? Or go to market. And it's like, yeah. Okay, I can kind of see that. And then at the end, it's just like, are these the right people for it? And have they, do I think that they can actually do it? Right. Which then comes down to your ability to actually like tell that story and how you are in the conversations. But hopefully that answers your question.
It does. It does. So you're saying, look, the opportunity doesn't come from the number slide. The opportunity has to be layered in the story, small wins, to get the context of where you operate, why the opportunity is good, and then slowly it builds up. It's not one market size slide, 1 trillion market size slide that is going to make it for you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I hate ever saying like this is always the case, right? That very few things in life are black or white. What worked for us, and I'm trying to recall what like actually even the slides were because this was 2 years ago, but it was like, look, here's a massive problem. 80% of sellers focus on this, right? And anyone reading our slides, like we purposely knew that they were familiar with go-to-market and with sales. So like if they only invest in dev tech, it's not for us, right? And so, picking the people that you're talking to in the first place is really important. And from there, we kind of led them down this journey of like, okay, well, here's actually the problem. Here's why no one's actually ever thought about it before. This is a new untapped market. And like, I don't think we talked about market size at any point because it was like implied that this could be used by literally every single like revenue team out there. And like, why am I going to put a number to that when they can create their own box of how big that number could be?
Ooh, I just love the way you phrased it. And I'll tell you why. Because I work with founders all the time and I tell them, look, if you haven't convinced an investor to believe in you, no time slide is going to do it for you.
Yeah.
And you need to allow investors to visualize the size of the market rather than feeding it to them. Because once their brain starts working, they're getting juiced up. They don't need you to tell them it's $1 billion company. They'll realize it's $1 billion company.
Yeah.
And I love the way you phrase that it's implied.
Yeah. Because, and also like, again, if I was going out for a seed round tomorrow, right? Again, I would first off think like, is this going to be the biggest bet that an investor can make that like can result in the outcome? And also, is this the biggest bet that I can take today to impact because that's the exact same thing, right? And you may come to the conclusion that maybe fundraising is not even right for you. Right? Maybe you should go and be a bootstrap company, and you're not going to hit scale because in order for fundraising metrics to work, you're going to need a really big exit, and not every business can do that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Got it. Another tough question that I'm going to throw your way.
Yeah.
Literally, what is the toughest question you ever faced when dealing with investors?
That's a good question. I'll tell you probably the most common one that we got, which is, why can't Salesforce do this? Why can't Google do this? And I think, it did stump us a couple times, and then we, sat back, kind of thought about it, talked to some of our advisors, and we realized, and when I started coming back in really confident afterwards, I was like, I hope they fucking do, right? Because they have this massive engine of marketing and market potential, but we're able to offer a better solution, right? Like, okay, Salesforce, yes, may have a really big market share, but there's literally 6,000 something CRMs out there. Right? No one gave up because they said, oh, well, Salesforce already has part of the market. Right? There are businesses that can be built by attacking these niches. And then on top of that, every dollar that goes into Salesforce, $5 or $6 goes into the marketplace and their app exchange. Right. And so like, I hope they do build it because probably they're not going to do a really great job of it. It's going to be really clunky. It's going to be really slow. But they're going to educate the market and spend tens of millions of dollars that we don't have. So that ended up changing it. But I imagine adoption and implementation were probably struggles, right? Because it's like, well, how do you get sales reps to adopt anything? They don't want to adopt new technology. But it's just like, well, bet on us and we'll see.
You know what? I gotta tell you, I'm really blown by your answers because it's so critical. So many times VCs are telling emerging founders, so what if the big guys are gonna copy it? And many of them don't know how to answer it. And I think your part about, sure, let them do it. Let them educate the market for me. And I'm going to piggyback because for every $1 goes to Salesforce, as you said, $5 are being generated for other companies in the market. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. You spoke. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So I was going to say, I mean, now obviously, right, you see what happens with something like Slack versus Microsoft Teams. So, they have the distribution, they will clone. So like, obviously you need to really think through the problem. Like you can't just come in and like it did stump us on a couple meetings, and like it really took a lot of like brain power to sit down and like have a cohesive strategy around how to get around it. But it is what it is, right? It could be a big exit for the startup where you just get acquired by Salesforce for $400 million. Like it's not a bad outcome, right? Maybe it's not what the VCs want, but
I hope for you that's going to happen soon. Um, if that's in your path. So you spoke a lot about storytelling. How critical is story for your pitch?
I think it's one of the most critical aspects of it. If you're not able to convince and have that story of why, again, this is the best opportunity possible, and why the potential outcome and why the risk is low and why you're the team to do it, nothing else matters, right? Like going through fundraising and going through like building a startup, I don't think I ever truly appreciated the importance of storytelling. It is important for hiring. It's important for sales. It's important for customer success. It's important for internal management. Like it is one of the most critical. And like there's a million things I could do better on it, but it made me realize the importance of it.
But, Mark, that was really insightful. I really want to thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. Just by hearing the way you communicate, your energy, your conviction, and your insight really enabled me to understand why these companies and those investors invested in you and in Recap. And
Thank you, brother.
for
Thank you.
everyone who is looking to streamline and standardize their flow from discovery to delivery, check out Recap. Exactly. Connect with Mark. I'm sure he'll be happy if you'll reach out on LinkedIn. And for all the founders who are listening to this session, we've answered here some of the most critical questions early stage founders are dealing with. Mark, this was priceless. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing your brain power with us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And if any founders are listening, feel free to contact me directly. A lot of people helped me around the journey. So if I can help anyone, feel free. Mark at recap.io. Reach me on LinkedIn. It's pretty easy. But again, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Mark.